Good day and thank you for joining us on Beetv Global News at 12. I am Liberateman Johanna. Now the news in details. Supporters of Pakistan former Prime Minister Imran Khan on Monday staged a rally in Karachi calling for his immediate release and protesting what they described as political persecution of the opposition leader. The report.
The demonstration was organized by members and sympathizers of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party and took place at key locations across the city. Protesters waved party flags, held placards bearing Imran Khan's image, and chanted slogans demanding justice and the rule of law. Many accused the authorities of using legal and political pressure to sideline Khan and weaken PTI ahead of future political developments. PTI leaders addressing the crowd said Imran Khan's continued detention was unjust and urged the government and judiciary to uphold democratic principles. They maintained that the former prime minister was being targeted because of his popularity and criticism of the current administration. Speakers at the rally also called on party supporters to remain peaceful while continuing to press for Khan's release through lawful means. Security personnel were deployed in and around the protest areas to maintain order and prevent any breakdown of law and order. The rally remained largely peaceful, though traffic movement was affected in some parts of the city as supporters gathered in large numbers. Imran Khan, who was removed from office in 2022 through a no-confidence vote, has faced multiple legal cases in the recent months. His arrest and detention have sparked protests by PTI supporters in several cities across Pakistan, highlighting ongoing political tensions in the country. The Karachi rally adds to a series of demonstrations nationwide, underscoring the continued support Imran Khan commands amongst his followers and the deep political divisions shaping Pakistan's current political landscape. Zainab Mohammed reporting for Beetv News.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced that he and the U.S. military leaders are weighing a range of responses to the escalating unrest in Iran, including potential military operations, as nationwide protests continue to intensify and the Iranian government crackdown has reportedly left hundreds dead and thousands detained. The report.
Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has rejected the warning, insisting that Cuba will not bow to external threats. Trump made the statement while restating his hardline policy towards Cuba and Venezuela, accusing Havana of benefiting from Venezuela's oil exports and economic assistance in exchange for political and security support to the government in Caracas. According to Trump, the flow of Venezuelan oil and money to Cuba sustains what he described as hostile and undemocratic systems in both countries. He warned that the United States would take firm action to stop any arrangement that allows Venezuela to supply subsidized oil or financial aid to Cuba, stressing that sanctions would be strictly enforced. Trump also called on Cuban authorities to negotiate, saying any relief from U.S. pressure would depend on political and economic changes on the island. In response, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel dismissed the remarks, describing them as interference in Cuba's internal affairs. He said Cuba would not accept threats or conditions imposed from abroad and reaffirmed the country's alliance with Venezuela. Diaz-Canel maintained that cooperation between Havana and Caracas is based on mutual solidarity and respect, not coercion. Cuba has long relied on Venezuelan oil supplies, particularly since the decline in its own energy production and limited access to international markets due to U.S. sanctions. In exchange, Cuba has provided professional services, including medical and technical assistance assistance in Venezuela. The arrangement has been a key target of U.S. policy aimed at isolating both governments. Analysts say renewed rhetoric over Venezuelan oil shipments highlights ongoing tensions between Washington and Havana, with sanctions remaining a central tool of U.S. foreign policy. While Trump's comments signal continued pressure, Cuba's response suggests little willingness to change course under threat, setting the stage for prolonged diplomatic strain between the two sides. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for Beetv News. Speaking to reporters abroad, Air Force One, Trump said the situation inside Iran is being reviewed very seriously, noting that the U.S. military is examining some very strong options in response to reports of civilians killed amid the regime's brutal suppression of protests. He did not specify exact military plans, but said formal decisions have not yet been made. Trump reiterated his concerns over the deaths of demonstrators, saying there seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed, a comment reflecting mounting U.S. pressure on Tehran's leadership. The president indicated that options under discussion span from military action to cyber attacks, expanded sanctions, and potentially support for anti-government sources inside Iran. The protests, now entering their third week, were initially sparked by economic hardship, including steep inflation and a collapsing currency, before snowballing into broader calls for political reform and opposition to the Islamic Republic leadership. Human rights group report more than 500 fatalities and over 10,000 arrests in the crackdown, though independent verification remains difficult due to government-imposed communication restrictions. In addition to military deliberations, Trump said he plans to speak with Elon Musk about ways to restore internet access in Iran, where authorities have imposed a near-total communication blackout in an attempt to limit the spread of information and organization among protesters. Trump praised Musk's technology and capabilities and noted that the satellite-based internet services, including SpaceX Starlink, could potentially help Iranians bypass official shutdown. Trump also revealed that Iranian officials have reached out to Washington for negotiations, a development he framed as a possible result of increased pressure on Tehran. He said a meeting is being set up, though he stressed that the U.S. might act before such talks occur if the situation worsens. Iran's government has warned of retaliation should the U.S. proceed with military actions, with senior officials indicating that American and Israeli interests could become targets. The international community has urged restraint and respect for human rights, even as protest and solidarity demonstrations continue abroad. The Trump administration is expected to continue reviewing all available options in coming days, with senior national security officials preparing detailed briefings on potential U.S. responses amid one of the most serious challenges to Iranian domestic stability in years. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for Beetv News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has declared the Venezuelan oil and financial support will no longer be allowed to reach Cuba, renewing pressure on the Caribbean nation and urging its leadership to negotiate with Washington. The report.
Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel has rejected the warning, insisting that Cuba will not bow to external threats. Trump made the statement while restating his hardline policy towards Cuba and Venezuela, accusing Havana of benefiting from Venezuela's oil exports and economic assistance in exchange for political and security support to the government in Caracas. According to Trump, the flow of Venezuelan oil and money to Cuba sustains what he described as hostile and undemocratic systems in both countries. He warned that the United States would take firm action to stop any arrangement that allows Venezuela to supply subsidized oil or financial aid to Cuba, stressing that sanctions would be strictly enforced. Trump also called on Cuban authorities to negotiate, saying any relief from U.S. pressure would depend on political and economic changes on the island. In response, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel dismissed the remarks, describing them as interference in Cuba's internal affairs. He said Cuba would not accept threats or conditions imposed from abroad and reaffirmed the country's alliance with Venezuela. Diaz-Canel maintained that cooperation between Havana and Caracas is based on mutual solidarity and respect, not coercion. Cuba has long relied on Venezuelan oil supplies, particularly since the decline in its own energy production and limited access to international markets due to U.S. sanctions. In exchange, Cuba has provided professional services, including medical and technical assistance assistance in Venezuela. The arrangement has been a key target of U.S. policy aimed at isolating both governments. Analysts say renewed rhetoric over Venezuelan oil shipments highlights ongoing tensions between Washington and Havana, with sanctions remaining a central tool of U.S. foreign policy. While Trump's comments signal continued pressure, Cuba's response suggests little willingness to change course under threat, setting the stage for prolonged diplomatic strain between the two sides. Temitope Oluwafemi reporting for BTV News.
Iran has issued a strong warning that it would target United States military bases and Israel if Washington launches another military action against the country, as widespread anti-government protests continued across the Iranian capital and other major cities. The report.
The warning comes amid days of unrest in Tehran, where demonstrators have taken to the streets to protest against the government. Security forces have responded with a heavy presence, and international human rights groups and opposition sources claim that hundreds of people have been killed during the crackdown, though Iranian authorities have not confirmed those figures. Senior Iranian officials accuse the United States and its allies of interfering in Iran's internal affairs and encouraging the protest. They said any attempt by the U.S. to attack Iran under the pretext of protecting protesters would be met with a swift and forceful response. Iran will not hesitate to defend its sovereignty, a senior government figure was quoted as saying by state media. Any aggression by the United States will result in retaliation against its military bases in the region as well as against Israel. The United States has repeatedly criticized Iran's handling of the demonstrations and called on Iranian authorities to respect the rights of protesters. U.S. officials have also warned Tehran against using excessive force, but Washington has not announced any plans for military action. Israel, a longtime adversary of Iran, has not officially responded to the latest threats. However, tensions between the two countries have remained high for years, particularly over Iran's regional influence and military activities. Meanwhile, protests have continued despite increased security patrols, internet restriction, and mass arrests. Demonstrators are demanding political reforms and greater freedom, while the government insists the unrest is being fueled by foreign powers. The situation remains tense, with fears that further escalation could deepen regional instability and draw in international actors if diplomatic efforts fail to calm the crisis. Evelyn is reporting for BTV News.
Thousands of people braved a whipping cold wind through the streets of Minneapolis on Saturday, part of a massive public outcry over the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Rennie Nicole Gould by a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer earlier in the week. The report.
Protest demonstrators estimated a crowd in the tens of thousands, with demonstrators joining on the banners such as "ICE Out for Good" and chanting slogans like "Abolish ICE" and "No Justice, No Peace, Get ICE off our streets." Many marched towards the residential streets where Good was shot in her car on Wednesday, holding signs and stopping as makeshift memorials. The march was one of more than 1,000 rallies planned across the United States this weekend in response to the incident, which has ignited demands for accountability, a halt to aggressive ICE operations, and broader immigration enforcement reforms. Sister protests and vigils also took place in cities including New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. Despite sub-freezing temperatures and strong winds, the large turnout highlighted deep public anger and grief. Led in part by a group of indigenous Mexican dancers, the crowd chanted Good's name and pressed for justice, with some holding homemade signs and families joining the procession. Protesters described themselves as heartbroken and frustrated, saying they were driven by outrage over what they view as excessive use of force and broader grievances with federal immigration policy. "I'm insanely angry, completely heartbroken and devastated," one marcher told Reuters. The shooting has become a flashpoint in national debate. Minnesota officials have called the killing unjustified, citing bystanders' video that they say contradicts the federal government's accounts. The Department of Homeland Security, which oversees ICE, maintains that the agent acted in self-defense, saying Good drove her vehicle towards officers after being ordered to exit her car. Local leaders, including Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, urged protesters to remain peaceful and vowed law enforcement would respond to any unlawful activity. Some peaceful demonstrations did see isolated property damage and arrests at different locations. The Minneapolis March was part of a broader movement over the weekend, with demonstrations drawing thousands in multiple states from Washington, D.C. to Boston and beyond. Many of these protests called for the end of ICE large-scale deployments and demanded political action to address immigration policy and enforcement tactics. The unfolding event reflects the intense national debate over immigration enforcement, federal authority, and civil rights protections that has been heightened by raining goods deaths. Evelyn is reporting for Beetv News.
Human remains have been found in southeastern Australia, where bushfires continue to tear through towns, homes, and vast stretches of bushland. The fires, fueled by hot, dry conditions and strong winds, have already destroyed multiple buildings and cut power to thousands of homes, leaving many communities isolated. The report.
Emergency services say the blazes are extremely volatile and warn that fire could burn for several weeks. Firefighters are working under challenging conditions, facing thick smoke, falling debris, and limited access to some remote areas. Evacuation orders remain in place for multiple towns as authorities try to protect lives and property. The discovery of human remains have prompted investigations by police and local authorities, though officials have not yet released information about the identity of the deceased. Recovery efforts are complicated by ongoing fires and hazardous terrain, which also hamper firefighting operations. Residents in affected regions have reported widespread destruction. Some have lost homes and businesses, while others are struggling with disrupted power, blocked roads, and contaminated air from dense smoke. Emergency shelters have been set up for displaced families, and local governments are coordinating relief efforts to provide food, water, and medical support. The Australian government has urged residents to stay alert and follow official instructions. Authorities are deploying additional firefighting resources, including helicopters and waterbombing aircraft, in a bid to contain the blazes. Environmental experts warn that recovery will take time as the fires have scorched wildlife habitats and damaged ecosystem across thousands of hectares. The disaster comes amid a season of intense bushfire in Australia, highlighting the increase in risk posed by rising temperatures and prolonged dry spells. Officials continue to monitor the situation closely, emphasizing that communities must remain vigilant while emergency services manage containment and recovery operation. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
You're still watching Beetv Global News Update. While we go on a short break, to stay with us.
Gone but not forgotten. Our dearly beloved mommy and matriarch, late Madam Gift Soe Irabo. Mommy, it's been 8 years since you left us in this sinful world, and just like a burnt down library, our world crashed when death took you away from us. As our mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, aunt, and mother-in-law, we will not forget in a hurry the great lessons you taught us, especially your prayerful lifestyle that brought us closer to God. We remember your undying love, care, and passion for God and man. The entire family of Yorama Erabo of Ogo Town in Orion local government area of Edo State cordially invites the public to the 8 years remembrance of their daughter, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, Madam Gift Soe Erabo. Date: January 13, 2026. Venue: Rose Garden Event Center, number 22, Giwa Amu Street, off Airport Road, GRA, Benin City. Time: 12 p.m. prompt. Mommy, continue to rest until we meet to part no more. We love you dearly. Signed, Ambassador Ogene Osaumese JP, for the family.
Welcome back, and now to business news. And Tenal PLC, a leading integrated energy company, has officially opened its rights issue, marking a major milestone in its capital raising program and long-term growth strategy. The rights issue comprises 978,108,485 ordinary shares of 50 kobo each, offered at 22 naira per share, and is expected to raise approximately 21.52 billion naira. The company said the exercise is aimed at strengthening its balance sheet and supporting strategic expansion across its business segments. The report.
A statement from the firm on Sunday stated that the offer opens today, Monday, January 12, 2026, and will close on Wednesday, February 18, 2026. Under the term of the offer, existing shareholders are entitled to subscribe for 3 new ordinary shares for every 4 ordinary shares held as at the close of business on November 27, 2025. All new shares issued under the right issue will rank pari passu with external PLC existing ordinary shares. The formal signing ceremony for the right issue was held December 2nd, 2025, following shareholders' approval at the company annual general meeting on July 24, 2025. The capital raise follows external PLC resilient financial performance in the third quarter of 2025 and the 9-month period ended September 2025. The company recorded revenue of 55.2 billion naira in third quarter and 212.8 billion naira for the 9-month period. It also sustained profitability over the period, posting a profit before tax of 1.39 billion naira despite an industry-wide decline in margins. A 2025 Nigerian real estate report by Umbosi Elie and Co. has noted that economic uncertainties and persistent supply chain disruptions caused significant delay in construction projects across Nigeria, affecting timeline, budget, and overall sector productivity. According to the report, the volatile economic climate and increased uncertainty are discouraging both domestic and foreign investors from investing in the real estate sector. It stated economic uncertainties and supply chain disruptions led to project delays and cost overruns, impacting the delivery timeline of real estate development. The devaluation of the naira and rising input costs such as cement, steel, and labor pushed up construction costs, making it more expensive to develop new projects. According to the report, the growing demand for affordable housing is coupled with government initiatives to promote affordable housing development opportunities for developers. The managing director of Stallion Cardinal Homes, Dr. Waliu Adeoye, has noted that rents in Lagos and Abuja have soared by up to 20% annually in some locations, intensifying a housing pressure on tenants amid widening affordability challenges. In a statement, Adeoye noted that Nigerian real estate sector stands at a critical crossroad in 2026 with an unprecedented convergence of policy reforms that could redefine housing access if properly implemented. He said Nigeria's rental market is worsening, especially in Lagos and Abuja, where rents are rising by 15 to 20% annually in some locations. Most urban Nigerians are renters, and the sector is in crisis with the widespread demand for 1 to 2 years rent upfront, posing a major barrier for households. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
And in entertainment news, Nigerian content creator and skit maker Esther Thomas, popularly known as Sunshine, has passed away after complications from fibroid surgery. Her death occurred on Friday, January 9, 2026, and was announced by her family on Saturday through her official Instagram page. In an emotional statement shared online, Sunshine's family confirmed her death and explained the circumstances surrounding it. According to the family, Sunshine has been battling fibroid and underwent surgery which sadly did not end well. The report.
The announcement sparked an outpouring of grief from fans and fellow creators across social media. Fellow content creator Chidera Madu later shared a detailed account of what led to Sunshine's death in a Facebook post. He revealed that Sunshine began experiencing stomach pain late last year, which gradually worsened. Chidera further claimed that Sunshine was unknowingly not receiving proper medical care due to an ongoing doctor strike at the hospital. He said concerns arose when no doctor was seen on duty, prompting a move to another hospital. Popular influencer Gege splashes millions as he acquires a new Mercedes-Benz GLE 53, reportedly worth 200 million naira. The self-proclaimed relationship expert took to his Instagram page to show off his latest purchase. This comes 4 months after he acquired a different version of the same Mercedes-Benz. He shared photos of himself standing beside the matte black colored Benz after the purchase at the dealership. Sharing the photo, he urged fans and colleagues alike to congratulate him on his newest car. Derek Martin, the actor best known for the playing Charlie Slater in EastEnders, has died aged 92. Martin first appeared on the BBC soaps fictional Albert Square in 2000 as widower Slater, along with his 4 daughters, Lane, Kat, Little Mo and Zoe. A regular cast member until 2011, he featured in a number of major storylines. Martin then made several guest appearances on the program until his character suffered a fatal heart attack in 2016. In a statement shared on Sunday by his agent Sharon Henry, Martin's family described him as a father and friend who supported us through our highs and lows, adding they would miss him terribly. And that's it on the entertainment news. Evelyn is reporting for Beetv News.
And lastly, on sports news, Super Eagles striker Victor Boniface has started his rehabilitation process following a successful knee surgery in Innsbruck, Austria. The Nigerian international opted for the procedure after weeks of medical consultations and has now been ruled out for the remainder of the 2025-26 season. The operation addressed a long-standing issue in his right knee that has affected both his availability and performance throughout the campaign. Boniface confirmed the next phase of his recovery in a short video shared on Snapchat on Sunday, showing him working closely with a physiotherapist. In the clip, the forward was seen doing light leg stretches before working with the aid of a support device, a clear signal that the structured rehabilitation program is officially underway. The 2025-26 season proved frustrating for the striker, who battled persistent fitness problems and a dip in form. Boniface faced to score in 11 Bundesliga appearances, registering 2 assists during his loan spell at Werder Bremen from Bayer Leverkusen before injury cut his campaign short. And that's it in our Global News Update. Thank you for joining us. I am Libet Johanna.